I don't know if you're lucky to have me. I live here, and I got lunch. Sean, you promised two exciting speakers. It's not Tim and I know, so I guess it's the legislative panel, but we don't know which two of those it is. First, thank you for electing me and voting for me. Even if you didn't know what you were doing, you elected me twice to the State Board of Education, as Sean noted. It's been a privilege to serve you, and I do work for you along with my colleagues. And I've been living happily in Ann Arbor with my family for 10 years. And I did, when Andy called me about this event, and I guess part of the text of this event is that so much of the leadership of influence is coming from Ann Arbor these days, Ann Arbor, Washtenaw area, from the governor on down. And I said, well, you do have disproportionate influence on the State Board of Education. You have myself as president, Democrat, and Eileen Weiser, who had a family health issue she had to attend to, who's obviously a very active Republican. Husband Ron chaired the Republican Party last year. So you've got two very active and very political and very partisan champions. And I think, as Sean also noted, we have found ways at the State Board, perhaps a bit more than in other venues, to work together across party lines and find common ground, including on tough issues that I want to talk about in terms of education. But this issue of Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti and Washtenaw County having tremendous influence, it was 10 years ago that we moved here. I'd been in Flint, Genesee County for 10 years, and my mission there was in part to try to help save Flint's economy. Did such a bang-up job at that I decided to promote myself to work statewide. But I remember my wife and I were looking for houses, and back in '99, I think you remember, the real estate market in Ann Arbor, we thought, where do we want to live? If we could live anywhere in Michigan, and it would be Ann Arbor. And so we were picking up a paper, the Ann Arbor paper in Fenton, and looking coming down here on a Sunday to look for houses. And there were two stories in the paper. One was Billy Ford sells Grosse Pointe Mansion to move to Ann Arbor. And the other was, if you want a .com address, that was during the height of the .com bubble, you have to have an Ann Arbor zip code. And I said, this is what we're up against, wife, in trying to buy a house. People were bidding the houses, out of our hands. So we did buy a house. We paid a lot more than I thought. But it's also, the strength of this region economically is different. And I think the house is worth more or less what we paid for it still, which is not the case in a lot of parts of the state and the country. So this place does have a unique economic vitality and strength. And I want to talk about that a bit too. But as Sean noted, Tim gave me a lot of questions that I might get asked, and I assume that's a clever ruse on the part of Tim to distract me from what he's really going to ask me. But I'm going to quickly say a couple things about education and where we are. First, I'll start with the budget and education funding, and then talk about what do we know that matters most about improving educational outcomes. Kids graduating, kids prepared for the next step, kids achieving, and how are we doing on those things? And then I'll come back to funding. But I mean, overall, education funding, our take, and the State Board did say in a bipartisan way, if we want the education outcomes we need, then we need more money and investment in pre-K, because the dividends are tremendous. We have to make sure all young people have access to early childhood. We need to keep about the same amount of money in K-12 and make reforms so that we're spending it smarter and better and changing some of the legacy systems, which we're also for. But we actually need a lot more money in higher education to provide access and not price it out of working class families' markets, these great public universities in particular, and to fuel the engines of economic creation and discovery and research and learning that is our university system. It is the most potent economic force in Michigan, are our universities, and you could argue University of Michigan is the most singly important economic institution we have. And it's crazy to keep killing and nicking and cutting these institutions. I mean, I think University of Michigan last year was the single greatest winner of competitive research dollars on the planet, along with Johns Hopkins, which always wins a lot. 1.5 billion, 1.6 billion of research dollars won, more than any other university on the globe. And that kind of horsepower to be the site of new discovery, new technology, spillovers that create new businesses, and attract talented people who want to be here. I mean, that's why our housing values haven't dropped through the floor like the rest of the country. This is a place people, talented people, want to be, and it's these engines of higher education and access to them for our people. Everyone needs a post-secondary degree that are hugely important. So we need actually more money in higher ed, and that's something I hope we can talk about. What matters to education? Forgetting the outcomes we want for kids, that they have the skills that they need to take the next step and be prepared whatever their career or post-secondary choice might be, and that they graduate and stay engaged. One, high expectations and high standards for all kids. All kids can learn the math, the communications, the problem solving, and we have done a good job at that in Michigan. We have got that knocked. We have rigorous standards now. We have a Michigan merit. You can't go through high school without learning something to exit the Michigan merit curriculum, which is content, standards, not a set of courses that we have to master, that we want all kids to master. And we just changed our cut scores at the state board so that when you, the score you get on the Michigan merit or the MEP does match what the kind of expectation you would need to be college or career ready. And that's high expectations for all students. Two, the second most important, or alongside that, is that we know what matters most is teacher quality. Great teachers can help excite learning and deliver the goods. And here in Michigan, we have a long way to go to improve. And the governor, we made recommendations to the governor. His education message begins to call for the kinds of changes that we need to make. We've been trying to make some of those changes. We've got to change the way we prepare teachers so that it's more rigorous and they're more effective in delivering learning. University of Michigan and Eastern, frankly, are leaders in changing the way they educate teachers so they actually teach powerfully and well. We need to support new teachers, half of whom fall out because it's hard to teach, with induction, mentoring, support. We need to demand that teachers continue to be good teachers. The teacher tenure reforms that were passed, particularly if the evaluation that is now going to be designed is supportive and of quality and objective, helps teachers not get into teaching, not stay teaching unless they are of quality, but it's got to be a supportive way. That's an important piece. And we do need to deliver the final step in teacher quality, which we need to help great teachers stay in the classroom and mentor other teachers and find satisfaction and career rewards as teachers, because that's the most powerful thing that we know contributes to student learning. We have not done this in Michigan. The governor, with our encouragement, called for master teachers and rewards for master teachers. Here's just a great example. Another state that we compete with, North Carolina, which also has fueled their economic growth by supporting higher education and their great learning institutions and the Research Triangle. They actually said over several governors, we know quality teaching matters most. We're going to back it. We're going to pay for great teaching. So they took a program, National Board Certification, which is a master teacher training program, very rigorous, said we're going to help a lot more of our teachers achieve that master teacher status. And they paid for the training, and they pay teachers more who are National Board Certified. They have 20,000 National Board Certified teachers in North Carolina. We have 381 in Michigan. We invented the program. Jim Kelly from Michigan invented that program, took it nationally. Other states have been serious about teacher quality. Other pieces matter. Building leadership, a great leader who creates a culture of learning. We did just bring back administrator certification and evaluation, along with teacher certification and needed evaluation. There's not a whole lot we can all do to insist that there's a great inspiring building principle, but it does matter and it's very important. We need to do a lot more to create these new models for effective delivery of education. There are a lot of different models for how we can rearrange the school to be a powerful school that excites all kids in learning, supports a culture of great teaching. We are blessed in this community to be actually the leaders in creating a number of examples of the kind of new ways all schools must be organized in different ways. Community High, where two of my three kids have been blessed to go. The new tech highs, what Derek is doing at Ypsilanti, or with refashioning the high school programs, with the middle college at Washtenaw, the early college with EMU. These are all examples, including ones that the governor rightfully, and we want to support this call to extend the early college credit taking, more dual enrollment, more early colleges, more middle colleges, creating environments that engage both at-risk and high-achieving students, excite them about learning, help them participate in post-secondary education while they're in high school. We have to change the dual enrollment funding formula, because right now it discourages, if you are at a high school, you lose money if your kid goes over to Washtenaw Community College or Eastern. That is crazy. And the states that are leaders on this, they actually pay. They hold harmless the higher eds and the K-12 because we want more of this. And on this one, the governor, it's his life experience. I mean, he had his life plan. You've probably heard it. But it got started when he was at Battle Creek, and he took a course while in high school at the community college. And then pretty quickly he's taking a course at U of M. And pretty quickly he enrolls early. And he is off and running. But we know that middle colleges and that kind of changed paradigm, and again, the network that's been created under Bill Miller's leadership here, former superintendent, of a new family of learning opportunities, and extend different options down to the high school and middle, or the middle and elementary school levels. That's the kind of examples that we need to foster around the state. And I hope we can do a lot more of that, because creating a different institutional framework than the old business as usual, particularly high school, is what's so important. I won't belabor this point except to say, particularly at the high school level, the high school we've had for 70 or 80 years, the big comprehensive high school, was designed for a different era, an industrial era, where a third of the kids were going to be the managers and professionals, the accountants and doctors, and go on to college. A third of the kids were going to be working with their hands in the trades and work on the line. And a third of the kids, you're just trying to babysit and civilize and teach checkbook math for 4 years and hope they don't drop out of school or run amok. And that's not the system we need. We need exciting learning environments for all kids that deliver both strong foundation skills and specialized skills in exciting contexts. Finally, we need to insist that schools that aren't performing, which there are many, and we now have a good, clear accountability system which says, here's the schools, top to bottom list, the underachievers. We now have finally a statewide recipe with the education, what is the thing, Tim? The Education Improvement Authority, or the EAS, or whatever, EAA? So that vehicle is a good vehicle that can identify schools that are at the bottom, wherever they are, starting with Detroit, and say, let's insist that we do something meaningful to pull the trigger on either turning them around, reconstituting them with effective operators. Some of them could be charter schools that could be run effectively with quality people, and or, push comes to shove, we need to create new choices. No kid deserves to be trapped in any neighborhood and not have access to a high quality school. The parent empowerment legislation that's before good colleagues here right now, could contribute to that. I think we, and I certainly would say, let's create more choices. Let's certainly encourage more cross-district choice, make that open and available. Let's certainly encourage more charter schools if they're quality, if they are operated by performers that deliver the goods in terms of educational outcomes and have a track record. We do have a lot of charters. They're good, bad, and the ugly in Michigan and other states. Some are what we envisioned with charters, a quality, interesting choice. Some are not. So we need, if we're going to create new ones, we need to create quality charters that are transparent, that are accountable, and that provide good quality choices. Now, we just took this up at the state board because we wanted to make recommendations to you all. We had and I will send it along anyway, we have a very good statement about more choice, more dual enrollment, charters if they're of quality and transparent. But we split, which is sort of emblematic. I knew 3 of my Democrats could not support any charters. They just don't believe in more charters. We have a centrist group of 4 of us, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, that were very strong on saying, this legislation is likely to happen in some form. Let's take a moment to provide thoughtful recommendations on how to make it be of quality. Not freebooting charter craziness, but insist on quality charters. I didn't know that one of the Republicans was going to vote against it because it was too restrictive. He didn't want any restrictions on charters, so that was a good example for me. We didn't count our votes. I thought we had 5 for this thoughtful package, 3 that would oppose it. Good example of where we need to keep working together.